All right, welcome back, everyone. Shannon, I think you were about to ask me a question.
Yes, and this question was also submitted through our Instagram page. But the question is, how do you address a diversity question on a college application when the student will not bring much to campus on that front?
That can be tough, but the thing is, every student has something to bring on that front, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think students really think it's always going to be about ethnic diversity, and that's simply not true. I mean, first of all, I want to just say that the bottom line is that most students who go to college come from relatively less diverse places. They come from the suburbs. A lot of them are white. I mean, the colleges know this, right? So I don't want, if you are part of a majority population, I don't want you to think, though, that you are exactly like everybody else. As you know, you are not. You are not. And the colleges know that too. So students have written about diversity in so many different ways. Like University of Michigan is the question that I think has been challenging for a lot of my students. And so I've had students write about like I had a student write about finding the chess community, right? Like he's
Wow.
a chess player, and he wrote about, and I said, you can absolutely write about being a chess player, but you need to write about why it makes you part of a diverse community, right? Like you need to pay very, very close attention to how they're phrasing it. Because what I've seen is that most of the diversity questions are asking about how do you, what kind of role do you play within this community? And then for sometimes you're going to have to explain what makes it a community, right? Like
Yeah.
what makes this a community? It's not obvious to me as someone who doesn't play chess how being a chess player makes you part of a community other than like very loosely. But he went to tournaments, he made friends, he, it kind of, it was sort of similar to him as maybe being a Boy Scout. Like I think you could write about being a Boy Scout as being part of a
Mm,
community. And I think that that could bring some certain kinds of elements. I had a student who, because of his commitment to Boy Scouts, had really learned a lot about bullying. And then he ended up leading up an anti-bullying initiative at his high school, which was
awesome.
great. This was like a very popular young man, an athlete. And so the fact that he really hadn't been bullied in his life. I mean, we've all had people say mean things to us occasionally, but he hadn't been bullied in that way. But his work with Boy Scouts opened his eyes to that. And so he kind of talked about being a member of the Boy Scouts community and how he was able to take that perspective, to his high school. And so just remember, there's a lot of different things a lot of different types of communities that you're part of. So it is not just about ethnicity. Absolutely, if you are a person of color and you want to write about being part of that community, write about it. Go for it. I'm not trying to dissuade that. But if you are part of a majority population, it doesn't feel like the right answer. There's some other way that you are part of a community.
Definitely. Fabulous. And all right, do you have one for me, Sally?
Yes. Okay.
All right,
Uh,
I'm gonna bring us back here. Hold on. Mm,
okay,
all right.
Shannon.
Oh wait, hold on.
Oh,
Let me catch you back in. All right, here in 4, 3, 2.
okay, Shannon. Yeah, so I have a question for you.
Great.
My son is about to start his senior year of high school. I was furloughed back in April and was just informed that I will not be returning to work. Will that be taken into consideration on my son's financial aid application?
Yeah, so unfortunately, not by default. And Tom, you are not alone in this situation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who lost their jobs over the past number of months. And the tricky part about the financial aid process is that it is very delayed. You will find that if you are applying, if your child is applying to start college in 2021, so applying for financial aid for the 21-22 school year, they will ask on the FAFSA financial aid application about your 2019 income. The financial aid application is always looking at your income from 2 years prior to the year you're applying for aid for, which is often about 1 year from when you're actually filling out the financial aid application. So for many, many people, their income from 2019 bears absolutely no resemblance to their income situation now in 2020 or what it may look like in 2021. You need to fill out the FAFSA financial aid application. You need to provide the info it's asking about. So it's going to be your 2019 income. But then, Tom, what I want you to do is send an email in to the financial aid offices at all of the colleges that your child is applying to, explaining the loss of income and documenting it. They want very specific facts and figures, whatever you can give them, attach documentation to the email about, you lost your job as of this date, and this is what your current income is, or if it's just unemployment benefits, whatever income you are receiving right now, document that for them and say, can you take this into consideration when reviewing my child's financial aid application? The colleges have the discretion to do so, to consider special financial circumstances, but they won't do it unless you specifically ask them to. By default, again, they're just getting 2019 income. So if you want them to consider something else, you have to ask specifically. So send an email in, document your current income, ask them to please consider that. I will tell you, and you want to do that about the same time you're actually submitting the financial aid application. Those applications for high school seniors will open up in October. October 1st is as soon as you can complete your financial aid application. So you want to send in your FAFSA. Some colleges will require an additional form called the CSS profile. About the same time you're submitting those forms, send in the email explaining what your current financial situation is. Some colleges will be willing to consider it upfront, and hopefully you get nice, generous financial aid offers from the schools on the first round. If you don't like the looks of the financial aid offers that you end up receiving, I would not hesitate to go back to the schools again on the back end after you've received your offers. If you don't like the looks of them, if they don't make the school affordable to you, send another email into the financial aid office and say, hey, remember me? I lost my job and I'm still out of work. Here's my full 2020 income that I can now document for you. Could you please reconsider our financial aid offer, again, based on our loss of income? So you want to submit the info upfront right when you're applying for financial aid, and you hope they take it into consideration upfront. In my experience working in financial aid offices, I know that not every college was willing to do so. Some colleges will want to wait and see until 2020 is over and see how the full income for the year looks. So I would not hesitate to go back again on the back end. If you don't like the looks of your financial aid offer, don't hesitate to ask them to reconsider. Nothing bad will ever come of it. They're not going to rescind your admission. They're not going to take away money they already gave you. The worst they'll do, they might say no again and not increase an offer, but they very well might increase an offer. Sometimes colleges will almost try and kind of get away with not considering special circumstances up front. They hope you'll just take them up on an initial offer, even if it's not particularly generous. But sometimes if you kind of call them on it on the back end, they will be more willing to reconsider an aid offer. So let them know up front, document everything. If you don't like the looks of the offer, ask them again on the back end. Okay, Sally. So the next question for you comes in from Lola on our Facebook page. And Lola says, my son self-studied AP Computer Science in 9th grade and received a 5 on the AP exam. Fabulous. He has been coding here and there since, and most recently for a summer research program. He is a rising senior now and is considering majoring in computer science. How do colleges view applicants who self-study the course versus those who take it as a class in school? Would it be less favorably since it's not on the high school transcript? Thank you so much.
I mean, in general, I recommend that students take courses at their high school, but I'm less concerned about a course like computer science than like if you had self-studied for AP Calculus BC, where it's such a core fundamental course.
Right.
Computer science is a kind of a discipline. The course, I mean, this says something about how long I've been doing this, but I was around before computer science was an AP class. So, I think that computer science, the fact that he self-studied for it and did so well, the fact that he's continued to do activities around computer science, I think is going to be fine, even though it's not on the transcript. But I am going to lean heavily on him continuing to do things around computer science. I mean, that's not something he should do intermittently. It should be consistent if he's applying into computer science programs. And he has to do really, really well in math. And I know that wasn't your question, but that's the piece that a lot of computer scientists seem to forget. They're like, yeah, but I'm getting an A in my computer science class. Yeah, but you're getting a B- in your math class. That's not okay with the more competitive computer science program. So I just want to say, if he's got, the activities, if he's got good grades in math, he has that 5 on the AP, which he'll be able to list on his application, I think he'll be fine. If a good course ends up being offered at his high school or someplace else, he might even want to consider actually taking like a MOOC, like a massive online, I forget what it stands for, like, open enrollment online.
Open
Yeah, exactly. Like think about ways that he can build on what he's doing and just make sure that that happens really consistently. And then I think it's fine.
Perfect. And I think we have another question for you from Christy. And she says, I heard the UCLA admissions officer on your podcast talk about deferrals and gap years. But since the UCs don't have a very liberal policy, they don't grant many gap years anyway. But many of the schools that our daughter is considering did in fact have high levels of gap years accepted. And I'm curious if schools filled in those students with their wait lists and if they replaced older students who took gaps with transfer students. I'm sure the answer depends on the college, but in general, do we think the class of 2021 will be vying for fewer spots? If that's true, I'm hoping it's offset by colleges being worried about their yields and maybe accepting more kids next year anyway to make sure they hit their numbers. Enrollment management is such a mystery.
All right, so we just have a few minutes left, so I'm going to try and, I don't know, maybe it won't take me long to answer this. I mean, the honest answer is that nobody really knows. I think that until recently, I would have said that I didn't think there was going to be a huge difference a year from now, because the colleges were holding the line on gap years, and a lot of students I think like if a student gets into UC Berkeley, they're going to want to go to UC Berkeley, right? They're not going to want to give up their spot. However, if, Harvard has 20% of students not coming back, yeah, that's going to impact things. But you also have to look at like enrollment management in terms of who's taking what classes, right? There's the classes that are taken by the first year students. You need to have replacement bodies for that. And then the students who are taking the classes, who are taking time off, who are in the middle of their college career, yeah, those are going to be replaced by transfers. I mean, honestly, enrollment management is somewhat complex in a normal year, and it's really going to be tougher. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but the bottom line is that we're not really going to know much until sort of mid-September, like when the students are supposed to be back in school.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm even curious what's going to happen with things like UNC Chapel Hill, which opened up and now they're going online. Are some students going to decide not to enroll? So we just don't know. So I'm very sorry, Christy. Come back to us later after we talk to our friends who are in colleges, because even the colleges themselves just, do not know exactly what's going to be happening. So.
Right. And I think the other thing I've heard in reference to this question is that some of yes, there may be less spots because of folks taking gap years, but maybe there'll be more spots because there'll be less international students coming.
Right. So that's a huge thing too, so. All right. Yeah. Well,
still a mystery. Sorry, Christy, we didn't solve the mystery.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shannon.
You're welcome. It was fun to be here, Sally.
All right, and thanks again to Megan Steubendeck of Arbor Bridge for joining us. We do these listener question shows all the time, so as Shannon said, submit questions to us, Facebook, Instagram, however you want to do it, and be sure to join us for our show next week. I'm actually going to be host again, and my guests and I will be discussing setting goals for juniors returning to school and how to find and answer supplemental essays on the Common Application and Coalition. Our Paying for College segment will cover what we're hearing from schools and families about the impact of COVID-19. And remember, by the way, if you have a question about a particular topic, we may have already covered it. To find the broadcast date, please go to our blog page at blog.getintocollege.com. Shannon mentioned this earlier. You'll be able to search for particular blogs, for particular getting in show summaries there. The full archive is going to be available to you. And don't forget, we're here every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific, so check us out.